Hey everyone, today I'd like to talk about Manjaro Architect, and we're going to go ahead and install KDE using Architect. And the cool thing about Architect is you can choose from a ton of different desktops. I think this is really worth a look. And right now I'm out at the Manjaro Architect download page, and so here we have our 64-bit version, and I'm going to go ahead and download this and check it out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit download, and this is the actual Architect ISO. Just an FYI, if you have an ISO already of a different spin of Manjaro, you probably notice that there's a install Architect shortcut on your desktop in the live version, and so you can also access it right from there. And so that'll save you a download if you already have a copy of some other spin of Manjaro. So just a little FYI. I'm going to go ahead and hit this download, and I think I'll just hit the download for the torrent because for me it's a little faster. And after the download, I will load this baby and let's check it out. Okay, I'm back and I have this downloaded now, and it's installed into my Virt Manager. So I'm at my menu right now, and the image wasn't that big. It was about 723 megabytes, the ISO. So that's not bad. I did notice that the version was 20.0.3, which is a little bit on the old side. So hopefully the Architect that comes in the other ISOs that you see on your live desktop are newer, but we'll see if that's a problem. If it is, I guess we'll deal with it when we get there. So let's go ahead and boot into this. I'm going to go ahead and hit boot. And now it's jumping in. I'm assuming it's going to go into like a console screen here. So we'll see what happens. And there we go. Okay, and so it's showing that the user login and password are both Manjaro. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. And Manjaro. Okay, and so to launch the installer, type setup. Let's go for it. And looks like we're getting some errors, but maybe not a big deal. Let's see. And so now it's percolating. It looks like it's kind of going out and, you know, kind of checking things. Okay, looks like we got some kind of error here. It says util-linux-libs and libutil-linux are in conflict. Asked to remove libutil-linux, and yeah, then it crapped. Oh well. Okay, so I guess the next logical thing then would be to try to manually remove libutil-linux. So let me try that real quick. So let's do a Pseudo Pacman hyphen uppercase RDD and then libutil-linux. See what happens. Okay, let's hit yes. Alright, that worked. Let's see, okay. Maybe we'll try an update now. So we'll do a sudo pacman hyphen uppercase s lowercase yyU and see if we can get an update out of this. Being that that's an older image, that might be what's going on. I guess we'll find out. Alright, asking me if I want to replace Linux 56 with the community latest. Default is yes. You know, I think for starters I'm going to just say no, and then if it doesn't work, we'll go back and try with yes. So I'll just go with no and no. So, okay, I guess I'll just do no to all here, everything that comes up. Hopefully this isn't going to go on. Okay, that was quick. Okay, we're good. All right, that's a good sign. It's asking us to proceed, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes and see what happens. and right now it's downloading the Linux firmware. And so I'm just going to let this just keep going, and then I'm going to pause the video for a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, it's almost done here, so looking good so far. Okay. Yeah, I'm impressed. It looks like it's going through the install pretty good here as far as the update goes. I thought I was going to have to run like Pacman-mirrors or something. But it looks like it's going okay, so cool. And I think it's almost done. That's why I unpaused here. Ah, there's Pacman mirrors right there. Configuring Pacman mirrors. Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, to me it looks like it ran through the update just fine. So that's cool. Let's give it another try and see if setup will work now. Cross the old fingers. All right, cool. All right, we're in. So hopefully that's the end of our problems. So we'll hit OK, and that's good. Okay. So we're starting off with prepare installation, and this should just kind of cycle through the list as we go through the steps automatically. It should cycle as we come back to each step. So hopefully it will. I'm going to just press enter to hit OK. And so our first option is set virtual console. That's for our keyboard layout. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's detected our keyboard is a US, which is correct. So I'm going to keep that. So our next step is to mount the partition. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go in here, 39 gigs. Nice. And I guess we'll keep it ButterFS. I kind of prefer that anyway, especially for time shift and all that. So we'll say yes. And these are our default mount options, and I think we're good with that. So we'll hit OK and yes. And we've successfully mounted. Very cool. Do you want to create subvolumes? Of course, why not? Automatic, that should generate like a home and cache or something. Yeah. Okay, very good. So let's hit yes, and then no need for a swap file. I don't think. That's not a big deal. Or a swap partition, I mean. I think it'll automatically generate a swap file anyways. I'll just hit done. Don't need any additional partitions. And now configure our mirror list. All right. So let's move on to that. We have our Pacman configuration, mirror configuration. I think I'm just going to go ahead and rank by speed. So let's just hit that. And stable is good for our branch. And now select custom mirrors using spacebar. So let's hit OK. And it's probably going to, yeah, it's going to download some mirrors. This is going to take a while, probably 5 minutes or so. So this is kind of the boring part. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and when it's all done downloading all these, then we can continue. I'll be right back. Okay, it's all done. Now we have our list generated. That's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and choose all the United States mirrors here. I think all I got to do is hit my arrow key here to start selecting. So I'm arrowing down, and our first choice are United States, so I'm going to hit my space bar to check that option. Then arrow down to the next, check. Arrow down, check. Arrow, arrow, check. Check. So I'm just going to go ahead and check all the United States entries here. And once we do that, we'll have our local mirrors. So that'll be a lot faster for downloads and everything if you choose things close by to you. Relatively. And of course you can choose other options too, but your quickest are going to be from your local country or nearest. to your location. Very good. All right. That should work. So now what I'm going to do is hit my tab key, and then down in the lower right corner, the OK button there should, or option should highlight. So tab. Didn't highlight, so I'll tab again. What? Let me tab again. There we go. Okay, just had to tab a few times. Now it's highlighted down there in the lower right, so I'm going to press enter. Cool. So now we can press OK to go back. And now our next step is to refresh the Pacman keys. All right, let's go for that. So now this will take about a minute, and it'll refresh all the keys, and then it should be done. And there's a lot of keys there. This thing's got more keys than a janitor. Yeah, looking good. Okay, so this is going to just take a minute or so. I guess I'll just pause it real quick and let it do its thing, and then I'll be right back. Okay, that process only took about a minute to a minute and a half, so that was really quick. As soon as it completed, it popped right back to this menu here, and now it's sitting at the next step, which is choose Pacman Cache. So let's hit OK. And do you want to use Pacman Cache? Yes, that will speed up the download and all that, reduce the size. So we'll say yes, and enable FSC K hook. Yes, we'll go with that. And yes, we do want to use it. And then OK to go back. Now we're at our second step here, which is kind of the exciting part. We get to install our desktop. So let's hit enter and install Manjaro desktop. So let's press OK. And now we have our choices to add YA and base development. So yeah, we want that. So let's check that. And by checking it, I'm hitting the space bar again. And then let's use our latest Linux kernel. So I'm going to scroll down and check the latest. And then press enter to hit OK. And now we get to choose our desktops. Look at all these choices. Wow. GNOME, KDE, XFCE, awesome. Man, they're all in here. Budgie, Cinnamon, Deepin, LXQt, and DE, Mate. Very cool. And even UKUI and WebDAD. Wow, WebDAD. That's the Jade desktop environment. It's kind of a beta thing that a developer on Manjaro is doing. It's kind of a one-man show, but it's kind of interesting. It's actually a desktop environment that's using web technologies like HTML, CSS, I think Python, and maybe JavaScript too, to do all the graphical stuff. So that's kind of an interesting project in itself. Here's our KDE option, so I'm going to hit the space bar and check that. And then I'm going to press enter. And would you like to add any additional packages to your installation? Sure, why not? So we'll press OK and hit yes. All right, now we have a window with all our extra packages that we can choose from. Now a lot of the packages in here are probably checked by default, I'm pretty sure. And those are base packages that Manjaro will put in there by default, but we want to add some extras. So the way to do that is we just type at the prompt here, and then it'll act like a filter and let us filter whatever it is we want to put in. So for example, I'd like to add Chromium. So I'll just type in Chromium. And as I'm typing, you can see it's working just as a filter. And here our first result, it has an indicator next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just press the tab key, and that'll let me select that and mark it for install. So there we go. Now you can see that it marked it, and then the red indicator moved down to the next one below it, which I don't need. So I'm going to backspace and fill it back up. And then let's add something else, like how about OBS Studio? That's something I would normally do. So I'll hit tab and check that. Backspace. How about Blender? I would probably do that. And cool. VLC player. That looks good. And yeah, I kind of like the phone-on version for KDE. So tab. And yeah, I guess that's good for now. That was just enough to kind of demonstrate how to go through that step. So once you're all done with that, all we have to do is press enter, and then it should go back to our menu. So I'm going to press enter, and there we go. Now it's offering 2 versions, and we want to go with the full, of course, on this. So I'm going to press OK. All right, so now it's got this big list of all this stuff it's going to install. So theoretically, if I hit Control X, it should exit out and start installing. So let's see what happens. So far so good. It's synchronizing here. Install base packages. Oh, got an error. Okay, what's up with that? Okay, it says not enough free disk space. Well, that's mildly irritating. Let's see what's going on here. All right, let's backtrack a little bit real quick, and maybe prepare installation. And let's hit mount. Okay, and let's just kind of double check what it says here. Partitions can be mounted without formatting them by selecting Do Not Format option listed at the top of the file system menu. Ensure the correct choices for mounting and formatting are made, as no warnings will be provided with the exception of the UEFI boot partition. Okay, so let's hit OK. And so it's asking to select the root partition. That would be this guy. Okay, and so I think that's all we got to do, and then just hit enter. Okay, now here's our formatting options. So I'm going to go down and select ext4. Let's hit OK. And it's giving us a warning that all data is going to be lost. We're good with that, right? Okay, and then select the desired mount options. We'll just go with the defaults there and hit yes to confirm. Okay, we got a successful mount. So let's just say okay for the swap partition, none and done. And with a little luck, that's going to fix it. So let's go back to where we were, our desktop system, and then install Manjaro desktop. Let's check this again. Then we'll go ahead and go with the Linux latest kernel like before. Let's select our GNOME KDE desktop. I'm using spacebar to select, by the way. And then we've already done that, so that should be saved, I think. And let's go with full again. And then Control X to exit. Error. Let's Control C. And now we're back at our prompt here. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Let's do a df-h. Let's try clearing the cache. So we'll do sudo pacman -uppercase S CC. And let's just say yes. And yes. Okay, and then let's try doing our sudo pacman update uppercase SYYU. YU. Okay, and then replace 56 with the latest. Let's just say yes on these options instead of what we did the first time, which was no. And see if that makes a difference. and didn't like that. So we'll just do the same thing. I hit my up arrow key and then press enter. But this time we'll say no like I did the first time. And see if there's any updates that are remaining. And there isn't, so okay. And then let's kind of do that df-h again. /mount. So that's cool. Let's just make sure that's mounted. So I'm going to hit mount and then /dev/VDA2. Oh yeah, well that was kind of dumb. Let's go back into setup. And then we'll hit keep. Our menu looks a little different. Interesting. Okay, well, let's kind of go with this. So it's going to download the latest packages. So our menu's kind of changed a little bit here. So let's just kind of, how it kind of went into this. So let's go with prepare installation again. And set our virtual console. Yes. Let's list our devices, make sure they're still there. And we're good there. Nice. Got our swap and all that, so that's all good. So I think we can just kind of skip down to, might be able to skip all the way down to back. Let's try. Let's see if we can be so bold. And then let's go to install Manjaro desktop. Hit our yay and latest. Press OK. Go down, select KDE, hit OK, yes, OK, and then let's just throw something in case it didn't save last time. So we'll just kind of do OBS again and hit tab, just in case, and then we'll just go with that and save it. And then, so I'll just hit enter and quit, just to kind of go through the motions. And let's go full. And then Control X and cross our fingers. Okay, so it's running through these. And it looks like it's taking a little longer, so that's a good sign. I think maybe it's going to take this time. Whew. I think we might have got through this one. Nice. Yeah, that was weird with the mounting thing, so I guess that's the solution if you run into that issue. So maybe that was a good thing. So this is good. It looks like it's kind of running through its paces now. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then when it's all done, we'll continue. Okay, the install completed successfully. So now it automatically popped over to this display driver menu. And our first option is to auto install the free drivers. So yeah, why not? So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And now it's installing our free drivers, display drivers and stuff, I think. And that was successful. Cool. So we're going to press enter. And now install our bootloader. Yay, we're getting closer. And so grub is our choice. That's what we want to go with here. OS Prober is something you would use if you already have some other systems on here. So that way you can kind of do a parallel install if you want. But no need for that. Okay, if you're booting from a stick, be careful. So we're all good. And our 40 gig partition's selected. So I'm going to hit OK. And now it's installing grub. Grub is going to allow us to boot. Very cool. So this should only take a second too. And now we're back. Now we can configure our base. So I'm going to hit that. OK. Press enter. Now our first thing is to generate Fstab. So this all should be fairly automatic. So I'm going to hit OK. And then just go with the default UUID, which is just fine. And now let's set our host name. So I'm going to go OK. And the host name can be anything that just identifies your computer, especially if you're on a network. I usually just call mine Toadwick PC, -PC. And so I'll just go with that. Now system locale, so let's hit enter. And by default, it's detected US. So I'm just going to go with the default there. And press enter. And press enter again. Set this keyboard layout, so OK. This one doesn't seem to be selected by default, so I'm just going to scroll down and find English. Or US, I mean, I think is where we want to go. So I'm just holding my down arrow key. And there's US, so I'll hit OK. And now let's set our time zone. Press enter. And we're going to select America. And then it should ask us for a region. Okay, so now we just got to find a city. And I'm on the East Coast, so New York would probably work. There we go. And I'll hit OK. All right, so America, New York, is that good? Yes. Okay, and then I think I'll just go with local time for our time zone and clock. Now we set our root password. And so I'll just type in a password here and then re-enter it. All right, now to add our user. Cool. And we'll just call it the usual, which is Toadwick. And remember, they need to all be lowercase. So let's hit OK. And now we get the default shell. I like fish, so I'm going to scroll down and select fish. Fish is cool. I like the auto completion features and all the other stuff. So I just hit enter to hit OK. And now it's going to add our new user. So I'm going to go ahead and type in our password again that we just created and re-enter. Okay, now it's creating our user and groups and all that good stuff. And now we can go back, so let's hit enter. All right, let's see what our system tweaks are. So hit OK. Enable automatic login, enable hibernation. Yeah, automatic login's a nice feature. I'm just going to skip that though. Enable hibernation is probably cool. Let me hit OK. And yes. And so now it's installing all the stuff that you need to have that feature enabled. And these are kind of optional things. You really don't have to add these in, but it's kind of nice that they got all these scripts for that. Let's see what performance is. That's our next option. Okay, let's see. Settings for a specific workload. Let's see what's under swap configuration. Swappiness and all that. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to press Control X and exit out. Preload. Let's see. Let's take a look at that. Enabling preload loads often used applications to RAM in advance in order to start them up more quickly. I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and press enter for yes. And then let's scroll down to back. All right. So, cool. Let's see what security and systemd tweaks are. Yeah, nothing that looks really serious, so we can skip over that. And let's go with back. Okay. And it looks like that covers everything. So let's jump down here to back. Or actually, let's chroot into our install. And so we can type exit to get out of chroot and FG to return to the installer. Okay, that's cool. Nice. All right. Don't really know why I'm in here, but normally I guess I would just type reboot, sudo reboot now here. But I do have my boot image in there. So I think I'm just going to shut down my virtman, and then I'm going to take the boot image out so we can just boot directly to our OS. because right now it's booting to the ISO, our bootable ISO. So let me do that real quick. I'm just going to shut down the virtual machine and then take that out of our boot up and start it up. And hopefully it's going to work. Okay, I went ahead and I'm rebooting the computer now. I took the CD, virtual CD, out of the startup. So it should go right into our KDE login, which it did. So that means it was successful. Nice. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Wow. So it looks like it worked. After all that, I lost a little extra hair during the install because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. I thought we were going to have to go to plan B, which is use a newer ISO and just you know, hit the shortcut off the desktop. But here we are. That's great. So there's our welcome screen, and so that's nice to see. I'm going to go ahead and close that and then just adjust our display so we have a bigger resolution here. Looks better. Maybe under places, system settings. All right. So let's go to display. (1920 by 1080). Hit apply. Okay. I guess my drivers aren't set up right in my Vertman settings. So I'm going to pause real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, I rebooted back in, so now it should work. I'm going to go ahead and select 1920 by 1080 and hit apply. All right, that's a lot better. So what happened was my Vertman, the display was set at QXL, and so I needed to change that to VertIO, and that took care of it. Cool and groovy. All right, so let's look and see what we got. First of all, I'm curious to see if it saved our original settings when we were adding extra components. I added in VLC player and then Chromium, I think, and OBS. And then we had that problem when we couldn't mount our drive, and we had all those issues. And then when I went back in the second time, all I chose was OBS, but I'm pretty sure it saved the other ones. But let's see just to make sure. I'm curious. Yeah, so there's OBS Studio and VLC, which we opted for. So that's great. And internet, there should be Chromium as well. I don't see Chromium. I'm pretty sure I selected Chromium. So maybe it didn't. Because I would think Chromium would be in there too. So, and maybe VLC is something that's default. So I'm not really sure right there. So I guess if you ever run into that issue, then I would just reselect all the stuff that you were going to add in, the extras anyway. But this looks great. Wow. So our install was definitely successful. Let me just jump into console real quick and run htop. I'm kind of curious to see what the resources are. I don't know if htop is installed by default, so let's just hit that. It is, so cool. And wow, 702 megabytes. That's pretty nice. Not too shabby. Okay, so here we have our nice, clean, vanilla-like install of KDE using Architect. I guess KDE Minimal probably would be more closer to vanilla, really. But this is a very clean install of KDE using Architect. And I think this is a great way to get a nice clean install of any of these operating systems. Plus, it's a great way to kind of understand a little bit the Arch way. I mean, you can't compare it to doing a real traditional vanilla Arch install, but it does kind of, you know, it does help you to grasp the Arch way of things by going through this Architect process here, I guess. I mean, this is kind of a way, if you're not really ready to do vanilla install, the archway. This is kind of a good little transition way to do it. And then that would probably get your confidence up to go even farther. So yes, beautiful. We got our KDE clean install. And of course, lots of apps on here already, BitTorrent and Steam. Under our multimedia, there's the OBS Studio that we chose earlier and our extras. And apparently VLC is installed by default. Otherwise, we'd see Chromium here. So I guess it didn't save my list when we had that problem. No big deal. Wow. And then all our utilities and everything. So this is great. I mean, it looks like we got a really nice setup here. And let me just jump into our system settings. And I think this is all your standard stuff like you normally see in a Manjaro install. Down here, our taskbar all looks pretty normal for Manjaro. And that's great. Yeah, really nice setup here. System's up to date, of course, because that all happened during our install. So we don't have to worry about that. And here's our default theme, which is Breath 2, and has that typical Manjaro, you know, kind of green look there. So that's cool. And then if you want to make this look even better, you can jump in here and set new global themes, and we could install something like, let's sort that by highest rated. And we could go with like Sweet. Or if you want your machine to look like a Windows machine, hit the Windows 10 theme over here, and then you'll have a Windows 10 layout, and you'll look even more Windowsy like. For somebody, you know, so that way if you're kind of coming over from Windows, that's kind of a nice option. I kind of like the Sweet theme, and I'm just going to kind of download that real quick. And with that, I guess we can call this a success. Now, if I was going to go back in time where I was at the beginning of this video, I would probably have just downloaded a more updated Manjaro ISO like a Manjaro XFCE or KDE or whatever. And then here over on the desktop, there would have been a shortcut option to install Architect from there. And Architect would have been a lot more updated than apparently the ISO that they have on their website. Because if you remember, the ISO on the website was like 20.03 or something crazy old. So that's why we had those complications during the setup. So if you just download a recent ISO and then select the icon on the desktop for installing Architect, it'll probably go a lot easier. So that's probably what I'd recommend. But at least the quest that we were on and the little complications, they might come in handy, because if for some unknown reason you run into that issue from your desktop install with a more up-to-date image, then maybe you'll know how to handle it. Yeah, everything's an educational experience. And this Sweet theme didn't install. Bummer. Oh well. I'll just hit this Windows one. And let's just go with Light Alt. That looks cool. Apparently the Sweet repository or wherever that's at is having a temporary issue, but not a big deal. So I guess my review is Architect is really cool. I do like Architect. Not really sure why they have an old ISO on their website. It seems like they would update that, but maybe, you know, I'm talking from somebody that hasn't really read through their documentation or their website recently. So they may have something somewhere that recommends that you run the Architect from a regular ISO desktop in the live install. And that could exist. So in fairness to Manjaro, I won't knock them for having an old image, because really that ISO for the Architect isn't in the main download menu. I found the Architect image through a Google search. I just Googled Manjaro Architect download, and it took me directly to that download page. So there's probably a reason why that's not in the main download menu, and that's probably the reason. Let me just hit this Windows light here and hit apply just to see what it looks like. Okay, so there's kind of a Windows light theme. That's okay. I mean, I guess, you know, it's semi-light. That's kind of weird. Yeah. I probably would have gone with a dark theme. But as you can see, it's kind of Windowsy looking. And so, yeah, I guess a Windows user might kind of like that layout, I suppose. And it's got the Windows launcher. But personally, I'll probably switch that over to Suite at some point. Okay, enough of my babbling. That should cover it. I hope this video was helpful for Manjaro Architect. And if it was, or even if it wasn't, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It's really helpful. And hit that subscribe button. Yes. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.